Hello, Internet, and welcome to another episode of Coy's Comics, Cinema, and Curls. I am very excited to join you guys today to talk all about all those things. It is a crazy week. The Schmoedown glory all went down just yesterday. I am still excited. We're going to talk about that more later in the show. We've got a ton of news to go through, and perhaps most excitingly for me, not to say, holy crap, the Schmoedown, but comic books are back. I got to read comic books, a new set of comic books this last week, so it is the first week in a long time that we have new comic book reviews, so I am very, very excited to go through both the comics I read last week and the pull for the future week of tomorrow. It is new comic book season, y'all. I am hype. So, I want to dive into the news with you guys right now. Let's get into it. Now, it is pretty deep into quarantine. It is definitely a trying time for sanity, but I turned a corner. They announced today that we are in this for another 3 months in Los Angeles, probably more. So I think I have finally accepted my fate of being an extroverted madman trapped indoors, and I'm just letting it happen. So, guys, for what it's worth, I'm in a great mood today, and it's the first time I've been like, we got this in quite some time. So I'm hoping you guys are doing well and staying sane as best you can as well. Because, whew! Getting into the news. Guys, I don't know if you had the childhood I did, but Tony Hawk's ProSkater was a fundamental part of it. I had a PS1 that pretty much only played Tony Hawk's ProSkater for a while. It was one of the first games I had. I think I had Tony Hawk's ProSkater, Twisted Metal, Spyro, and like 3 other games. I had very few games, and those were all used and like secondhand, as was my PlayStation. So I had the games that everybody else already had that were popular. So Tony Hawk was fundamental. It also came out in 1999, so I was 11 years old. It was the perfect time for Tony Hawk's ProSkater to enter my life. Now, in real life, in this world, I don't skateboard, I longboard. I have a longboard I love very much. I prefer to like cruise. I prefer speed to tricks. I like just kind of surfing but pavement. I like that form of longboarding. I've got 2 longboards, a Honey skateboard and a Sector 9, which was my first longboard that I still have to this day, and I love that world. And I don't know if that would have happened if not for 2 things. One, my local comic book shop, Larry's Comics, was a combo skate shop and comic book shop, and 2, Tony Hawk's ProSkater, and Tony Hawk's ProSkater is coming back, y'all. We are getting 1 and 2 reformatted to 4K on the PS4, which is fantastic news because, frankly, some of those games are hard to look at. It is tricky to go back and relive your nostalgia with certain games and not be like, what are those shapes? And it's because as technology evolves, our expectations evolve. There's actually been a lot of press about how the next Xbox and the PS5, the leap between PS3 and PS4 isn't able to be replicated again yet for PS4 to PS5. So we're not going to be able to have that leap in graphics, and people are worried that people won't be as wowed. And frankly, that's understandable on both sides, like the expectation versus reality, as well as what we're actually able to accomplish. It's a tricky line. So when you do go back and look at PS1 graphics, they are much harsher on the eyeballs than you remember. So this is an incredible opportunity to revitalize a franchise by going back to the source. We know what we like. It's Tony Hawk. So I'm really excited for the original soundtrack. I'm really excited for us to be able to play these old levels we all know. We've got 2 super chats that just popped up. Rob K says, my fingers are crossed they remake Tony Hawk's ProSkater 4. That one might be my favorite as well. I don't know if it's because it was the last one I played, so it was the most recent, or if it was, in fact, the best. But I agree with you, Rob K. That is the dream. And then Dizzle D just wanted to support, so thank you so much for the super chat, Dizzle D. I appreciate you so very much. Sincerely, thank you. Thank you. Both of you. So yeah, I'm very excited for more Tony Hawk ProSkater, both to relive the nostalgia, to play it anew, because it's been, wow, 1999 was 21 years ago. Tony Hawk's ProSkater can legally drink. That's fucked up. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like that one bit. Moving on, which also means there's going to be an entirely new generation of people that will discover Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Kids get to show their parents a game their parents played. Parents get to show their kids games that they played. I love this connectivity of multi-generational remakes allow for this glory. A lot of kids today probably don't even know who Tony Hawk is. He has existential crisis every day on Twitter. One of my favorite Twitters is the ever-growing, you look like Tony Hawk existence. Plus all of his do a kickflip stuff. His YouTube's fantastic. Tony Hawk's great. Big fan of Tony Hawk. So I'm very hyped for this game. The graphics look great. The cutscenes look absolutely incredible. I'm glad they're using the same levels. I'm glad we're going back to the world of Tony Hawk. I think it's going to be really, really cool. So I'm very excited. Also, speaking of Tony Hawk, his legendary, record-breaking, flip with certain amount of rotations was just bested by an 11-year-old child. An 11-year-old prodigy finally beat Tony Hawk's record, which is just cool. So look up that video. An 11-year-old doing the glory of Tony Hawk's big move is a rad thing to see, because as we evolve, as skateboarding evolves, as all these things evolve, the competition gets harder and crazier. So I'm very excited. We will see how that goes as time goes along. And Sahil, I see you. I also can't wait for a James Bond GoldenEye remake, because that was the game on N64 for me. I think GoldenEye and Mario Kart were my two most frequently played. I got an N64 like 3 years after PlayStation. I've always been a Sega Genesis and PlayStation guy. I've got my Spider-Man edition PS4 that I'm almost caught up to being able to play. I'm very excited. We'll do Game Talk, and I think I'm going to start a Twitch for that. But N64 remaster on that, and I've got a Sega Genesis mod that I love. Like, there's some crazy old, like, Vectorman and old Sonic games that are just dope. All right, more news beyond Tony Hawk, because I could talk about it for an hour. We've got a bunch of bat quotes. Now, the Batman, I realized today, I for some reason woke up thinking about the Batman, which is very normal, I'm sure. And I think it's my most anticipated movie, comic book movie, that's not yet available. And it hit me. The Eternals is up there. Obviously, more Spider-Man is up there. Like, these are the more known properties. But I've been looking forward to Matt Reeves' Batman for 3 to 4 years now. And I think Robert Pattinson is the next, holy crap, we should never have doubted him. I haven't doubted him, but many people have. And I think it's going to be exciting to see someone that a lot of people are doubting prove their worth. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. was a very hard-fought battle to get that first Iron Man, but ever since he's been Iron Man, we can't imagine anyone else. The Batman has been played by so many people, it's a different kind of part. And what Robert Pattinson himself had to say about that makes me even more excited for his portrayal. So his portrayal, to me, is going to be, hopefully, some mix of Neil Adams and the detective aspect from The Long Halloween, and a leaner, more thought out, like more of a thinking Batman. I love Nolan's Batman. I think that's probably my favorite Batman as far as storyline. I think physically the fight scenes with Batfleck are hard to top. So I've got like overall story, Nolan. I've got fight scenes, Batfleck. I've got nostalgia for all of the original Keaton, Kilmer, maybe not Clooney as much. But I like them all for different reasons. And that is also a thing that Mr. Robert Pattinson had to say, saying, quote, "I think the downsides, which I've definitely thought about, the downsides kind of seem like upsides. I kind of like the fact that not only are there very, very well done versions of the character, which seem pretty definitive, but I was thinking that there are multiple definitive playings of the character. I was watching the making of Batman and Robin the other day, which that must have been a journey. And even then, George Clooney was saying that he was worried about the fact that it's sort of been done, that a lot of the ground should cover with that a lot of the ground that should have been covered with the character has already been covered. And that's in 96, 97. And then there's Christian Bale and the Ben Affleck one. And then I was thinking, it's fun when more and more ground has been covered. Like, where's the gap? You've seen the sort of lighter version, you've seen a kind of jaded version, a kind of more animalistic version, and the puzzle of it becomes quite satisfying itself. To think, where's my opening? And also, do I have anything inside me which would work if I could do it? And then also, it's a legacy part, right? I like that. There's so few things in life where people passionately care about it before it's even happened. You can almost feel that pushback of anticipation, and so it kind of energizes you a little bit. It's different from when you're doing a part and there's a possibility that no one will even see it, right? In some ways, it's, I don't know, it makes you a little kind of spicy. Dude, this is exactly what I want to hear from someone taking over the mantle of a legacy part, of a part that is so fan-hyped, of a part that's been played so many times. There are so many aspects of this barrage of quotes that I love dearly. I think Robert Pattinson is going to surprise so many haters. I think that he's going to really change the role of the Batman. I'm excited for a trilogy. I'm hoping we get a lot of them. And this, to me, shows that Robert Pattinson took this role for the right reason. If you think about it, Pattinson hasn't done a role like this since Twilight. He's avoided these tentpoles and blockbusters. Now he's coming back with both Christopher Nolan's big blockbuster, which in itself is more of an auteur independent film with a blockbuster budget, and a true blockbuster with the Batman, which means tons of shitty press, which means tons of fun press, which means lots of spotlight, which he hates, which means lots of the parts of acting he doesn't enjoy. So the script and the character must call to him to such a level that he's willing to do all the shitty side of the acting stuff he doesn't want to do. To me, that was already why I was excited. I also think he's an incredible actor, and incredible actor personally. High Life, The Rover, Good Time. There's so many performances. I recently just watched The Lost City of Z this last week, and he's so good in that film. He's incredible in, just like the rest of the Twilight cast, he's incredible in everything but Twilight. And there's no one that hates Twilight more than Robert Pattinson. If you listen to Robert Pattinson talk about Twilight, dude hates it. But it made him millions of dollars, and now he can make the kind of films he wants to make. I see acting as like any other job. Sometimes you got to do the job you don't want to do to get the job you want to do. So for me, the Twilight movies are like being a really comfortable job you don't want to do. I don't want to disparage any jobs, but say you want to be an electrician, you've got to be an apprentice first. So he had to be an apprentice before he got to do the artistic films that he wanted to do later. So for me, I really appreciate the fact that he went through the Twilight films to get to the point where he could play the more artistic films, and now he's going back and making an artsy Batman film with Matt motherfucking Reeves. So for me, this is the perfect quote to encapsulate it all. I also think it's fascinating he's watching Batman and Robin behind the scenes. I think it's fascinating he's looking at Batman as an abstract. I think it's interesting that while he's in this off time, we get these interviews and these musings of where he is with him analyzing the Bruce Wayne Batman dichotomy. So I love all of this. And the quote of looking at the role as where's the gap? What's interesting about this performance? If you're an actor, you don't want to sleepwalk through a role. You don't want to do it just for the money, because that sucks. You don't want to just be there. Acting is hard, and the hours are long, and the press is longer, and there's just so much that goes into it that people don't think about. This is why you do a role. This is a beautiful quote. This is exactly what I want to hear from an actor taking on the goddamn Batman. Guys, I'm excited. I'm so excited. So we also heard from Andy Serkis this week. Andy Serkis had to say that the script is, quote, very much about the emotional connection between Alfred and Bruce. That's really at the center of it, and it is a really exquisite script that Matt has written. Now, I have always loved the Alfred-Batman relationship, as well as the Alfred-Bruce Wayne relationship. Alfred is the guy in his ear when he's Batman, but he's his father, his mentor, his everything when he's Bruce Wayne. He's the family that Batman gets to have because Bruce has to pretend to be something that he's not. The mask of Batman is Bruce, and I love that so much. Alfred gets to see both sides, and that's a really unique spot. I feel like we've gotten that in pieces in very beautiful ways. I love Michael Caine in the Nolan trilogy. I love Michael Gough in the older films, but I want to see a more fleshed out version of all of that as this evolves, and that's a really cool part of the comics right now. Like Tom King using Alfred the way he did, and then killing him, and the way we lead up to Pennyworth. Pennyworth is a fantastic show, and it has no right to be a prequel to Batman without Batman in it. I didn't think I'd give a shit, and it's actually so good because Alfred is fascinating. He's an MI6 agent. He is loyal to a family. Being a butler is an honor. There's a certain code within that world, and it's all fascinating because it's something that unless you're in it, you have to really focus on to understand, and I love that world. So Pennyworth's great. The comics with Alfred are great. There's a recent Batman annual with Alfred that it's a 1-2 punch of Alfred and Batman, so you see the training Alfred gave Batman kind of leading into that story. It's fantastic. So having someone as incredible as Andy Serkis playing Alfred and him saying that's what drew him to the script is giving us a really good insight into the emotionality and the depth of this Matt Reeves Batman film. So I'm ever more excited every quote I see. Matt Reeves has had a bunch of quotes as well recently that I've covered on the show, and Andy Serkis went on to say, I was literally halfway through shooting my part in it when we got shut down. So it'll be interesting to see where that resurfaces and how it's been affected by the lockdown. and went on to reassure, saying, "But it's going to be a beautiful film." Andy Serkis, fantastic actor, mocap performer, director. He can see the vision of this whole thing. I can't wait for his Venom. It's going to be fantastic. But I'm really excited to see Andy Serkis, who's been involved in some of the biggest films of all time. The guy was in the Marvel movies, part of the Planet of the Apes, which helped mocap be what it is today, and now he's part of the Batman, and he's working on Venom. So the dude's in Sony, MCU, DC. He sees all of this. People don't realize how much Andy Serkis is in every large blockbuster. He directed a giant mocap Jungle Book with Christian Bale in it. The dude is part of all this. So if he's telling me that it's going to be a beautiful film, and then you've got Matt Reeves, who has done no wrong, the goddamn Batman, y'all. I'm fully at an Avengers level threat of hype. I am all the way up here with my hype. I think that every quote I hear just validates my hype, and I think that everything about this movie is all of the right pieces, so we can get a new, not disrespecting the past Batman's Batman, and I think that's what you need to do. With this being so close to Christian Bale's, who, frankly, it wasn't Bale's fault, he just never got the chance to play Batman. He was incredible every time he got the chance, but he never got to be his own movie. The fans in the beginning and then the fallout at the end, there's so much in the messiness of that, so it's really hard to take that character and make a new one so soon. This is the way you do it. You mix it up. I'm real hype. So, also in the world of Batman, there was some quotes from Val Kilmer, which I talked about on Coy-Cast, him basically saying there is no Batman, anyone can be Batman. It was a very, Spider-Verse, anyone can wear the mask kind of quote, and I think that's a really interesting perspective on the character, so check out Val Kilmer's quotes. I love Val Kilmer as an actor. He's a fascinating human being, so his quotes about Batman are also likewise fascinating. His world view in general, his view on religion, his view on everything is a lot, so check out Val Kilmer's interview. It's also interesting. And then Akiva Goldsmen, my last bit on the Batman, is Akiva Goldsmen was working on a BVS film way back in 2000. Some of you guys might not remember this. Way back in the day, there was going to be a Batman vs. Superman film preceding the Nicolas Cage Superman film that was going to star Jude Law as Superman and Colin Farrell as Batman, and it was pretty far along to my knowledge. I was 12. But from what I've heard, it was pretty far along. I think they'd been officially cast. I think things were moving, and we're now hearing more and more details as Akiva Goldsman is having conversations about the pre-DCEU. Now, he said it was recently in a Collider exclusive. Over at Collider, you can find the whole interview. He talked to Frosty over there. He basically said it was the darkest thing you've ever seen. Now, that's something we hear all the time. That's something we hear constantly in these films, about the grittiness, about the blah, 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 the darkest thing you've ever seen. But this sounds really fucking dark. I've heard a lot about this script, and this lines up with everything I've heard about leading up to this. The reason I was interested in it is I'm a huge Andrew Kevin Walker fan. He came in and did a lot of the rewrites and additional write-ups on Fight Club, which is my favorite film of all time. In fact, Andrew, Kevin, and Walker are the names of the three guys that kidnap Ed Norton. Not kidnap. They strap him down. They're going to cut off his balls and mail them. That scene, those guys are named Andrew, Kevin, and Walker in honor of Andrew Kevin Walker. He also wrote Seven. So two of my favorite films. This he wrote 8mm. He's dark. I'm a big fan of his work. So when Andrew Kevin Walker was attached to a Batman vs. Superman movie, I was peak in my Fight Club craze. Fight Club came out in 99. I was way too young to have seen it, but I remember thinking wait, the guy that wrote Fight Club's gonna write Batman? So I've been following this story for literally 20 years, and recently all of those things came together with a quote over at Collider, a place I sometimes work. And it's a great quote. He said, quote, "I wrote on this version of Batman vs. Superman around 2001 or 2002 when Colin Farrell was cast as Batman and Jude Law was cast as Superman and Wolfgang Peterson was directing. We were in prep and it was the darkest thing you've ever seen. It started with Alfred's funeral and Bruce has fallen in love and renounced being Batman. The Joker kills his wife and then you discover it was all a lie, that the love itself was constructed by the Joker to break Bruce. It was a time where you could be able to get these sort of stories together in this script form, but they couldn't quite land in the world. Somehow the expectations of the object, whether they be audience or corporate directorial, wasn't landing quite in a way I think we imagined when we put it on the page. So they had this insanely dark Batman ready to go, and I get it. In the early 2000s, that would have been post-Batman and Robin, right after Blade, right before Spider-Man, right around X-Men. Now, if you remember that time in comic books, X-Men had to be in all black leather. It kind of messed up the comics for a bit. They had to make it less comic-y. Kevin Feige was on set going, fix Hugh Jackman's hair! And it was fighting tooth and nail to keep the comic integrity, right? So I imagine doing something this dark and over here would have either messed with us getting a Batman movie soon, like Chris Nolan's films, or the, at the time, George Miller Justice League film, or it would have spun us out in a completely different direction, because if you think about it, it wasn't that long between, Batman Begins and Batman and Robin having just ended. At the time, we weren't getting comic book movies every year, so Batman and Robin being less than 10 years before Batman Begins, if you remember, the trailer for Batman Begins was a love story with a Katie Holmes billing. Katie Holmes was the lead of that trailer. It was a look at this CW take with Christian Bale in it. They were pitching it like the Newsies Christian Bale and a Katie Holmes leading Batman romance film. That's the expectation of that kind of movie at the time, and that's insane to think about now. And that was only 15 years ago. Every time people bitch about where we are with comic book movies, I'm like, yo, we were just out of the dark ages. We were advertising these films to sell to an audience that didn't exist, and we were making these movies work in post, advertising-wise. Like, we had to fight tooth and nail for this. So I don't know if this would have worked at the time. I don't know if this would even work now. I don't know if I'd want to see this removal of continuity. I really like Joker as an Elseworld, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I wouldn't mind seeing an Elseworld with this BVS take, but I don't know if modern audiences want that many pockets of Elseworlds. I do. I want DC to have as many pockets as they want. I'd love if Marvel did more pocket universes, because it allows there to be things that aren't just one streamline. If you're on one path, you're going to have a harder time making choices and taking chances. I think it's why the Deadpool situation is what it is. It's hard to get Deadpool going because the MCU is one thing and Deadpool's another. I think it's going to be interesting how they incorporate the X-Men, how they incorporate the Fantastic Four into one MCU, whereas Fox had the benefit of Logan being R and X-Men being PG-13. They had the benefit of like Sony making weird Monster of the Week chances. It's going to be interesting going forward how we do this with everyone clamoring for these shared universes. I love a good shared universe, but I also like versatility. So this is one of those times. It would have been fascinating. I would love to see the script. I hope all of that ranting made sense. We've got a Streamlabs. Let's see. Streamlabs. Weston Iro says, speaking of getting hashtag cubed, what is your favorite cube in TV or movies? I'm going with the Borg cube in general, especially after Star Trek Picard gave it new life recently. Also, congrats on the big week. Thank you, Weston. Weston is a new patron. I saw that name this week. He joined that after I was on Roxy's show. I try to remember as many names as I can. Thank you very much for the Streamlabs. That's a great question. I've never thought about the hashtag cubed of my show, except for the C element, but the actual shape. My favorite cube, it feels cheap, but I love the Tesseract. It gave us the concept of how big and cosmic the shared universe was going to be. That's a universe I like being shared, and now that it's huge, I think it's the foundation of everyone trying to base themselves around it. So you can't ignore the fact that the Tesseract was a literal cube that shattered into a multi-universe thing that is a multi-universal cube. It's kind of fate that something that represented a universe became a universe. It's pretty cool. No one could have guessed the MCU, except maybe Kevin Feige, would be what it became. No one could have anticipated the billions of dollars that this would grow into when they were like, let's get that Downey guy to play Iron Man, that character we didn't sell off because we needed the money, and, well, let's hope this Paramount distributed fledgling new network works out. Here's a cube. It's insane. So I gotta give some love to the OG comic book cube, the Tesseract, because yes, Weston, I am basically Loki. People say I look like Tom Hiddleston all the time, and I'm always flattered. So yeah, I think the cube, if that's not a too cheap of an answer. And thank you very much. Anyone that wants to ask a question, I try to see what goes on in the chat, but it goes pretty fast, and I'm talking. But the Streamlabs is a guaranteed way for me to pop over. I try to get to it in between every segment, much to the chagrin of people that watch this later, because I'm just babbling along and then I stop and go, here, this is what I want to talk to you. So Streamlabs and Super Chats I will definitely get to, and apologies if I miss you in the live chat here, because there's a lot of news going around. Okay, I'm going to take a sip before I dive into the next segment. Dramatic pause. And we're back. Kevin Smith is officially a part of my mouthy, quirky MERCS. I called him the old name. Apologies. Kevin Smith is officially a part of the quirky MERCS, and I am so excited, proud, elated, stoked to see where this goes. Now, I had my Comedy Store draft some time ago, and I intentionally left 2 spots at the end. The pipe dream from the beginning was to get Kevin Smith. And now that that's happened, I had some ideas of who to pair him with as a team, and that was why I had 2 spots. That didn't work out, obviously. I had some ideas for that last spot, but you should know that it basically came down to 4 people. I only put offers out to 4 people total for the for the last 2 spots on my draft. One of them opted out, said they couldn't do it, so I had 3 left, and then there was crazy bouncing around on the actual day of the draft, because someone else also made an offer to Kevin after I had, and we were trying to figure out where Kevin was going to land, and basically, then Kevin had work. Kevin had to do a quarantine watch-along, so he was prepping, so I didn't want to assume Kevin's participation, and he had already said he was in, he was already said he's part of the Quirky Mercs, he had done all these things, but I wanted the video so I didn't feel like I was just going like, trust me, Kevin's part of the team. But then Kevin got busy, because he's Kevin Smith, so I was in this really tricky spot of, I've made 2 offers. Do I just have those 2 people fill in the last 2 spots, or do I say Kevin's part of the Mercs and hope that the photo's enough? So it was a really, really tricky thing to hope that all landed, and I only had to accidentally screw over one person. I feel so bad. One of the people I really wanted for the team is an IG player, and I had to literally tell him when he was about to go on to announce his person, like, hey man, so sorry, and I feel like an absolute dick to this day, since yesterday, to this day, but I had to get Perry. Perry is one of my best friends in this industry, this game, in the journalism entertainment world. She is a fantastic player. I think that she gets a little flustered, but I think one of the perks of the Mercs is that we're super supportive. We are super helpful with both promos and with strategy. We're super helpful with training. We're super helpful with building what you can do as a player and what you can do as a performer. We're also very good at study sessions. You can grow as both of those things. So I'm really proud of the Mercs for all being a family. This other player that didn't work out also is the very friendly and warm and kind of person. Everyone on my Mercs I consider a warm... Basically, I was on the backstage special today for the free agents, and I said, and I mean, I stand by, I want everyone to have fun in the game as much as I want them to do well. So the coolest thing for me is Kevin has given me so much my whole life. Kevin Smith accidentally wrote my biography. Kevin Smith made a movie when I was 7 years old. I saw it when I was 7. That was about a guy obsessed with comics, that loved them all, that saw Stan Lee as a god, that stumbled into being a talk show host. Now, obviously, I went other paths on the way to that. I was an actor, and then I fell into being a talk show host because I realized I loved this more. But I've always felt like Brody Bruce was this archetype that I fell into, and I didn't realize that until like 12 to 13 years after I'd already seen Mallrats. So, for me, having Kevin Smith be part of something that I do and being able to show him something he's going to love, because Kevin loves having a platform to show his pop culture love, and this is exactly that. It's an evening with Kevin Smith from a competitive angle. So it's combining his love of wrestling and pop culture all into one thing. So for me, it's really cool because I get to show Kevin something, and he's shown me so much. Also, it's really surreal because I've been a fan of him since I knew what being a fan of something was, and like texting him has been like, whoo! He's just the best. He's also one of the best people. Like, he's so kind and giving and uber successful and hasn't changed. He's still the coolest dude. One of the first things I ever saved up my allowance for was the blueprints from Mallrats for LaForge getting blickety-blammed with the sock full of quarters. I bought that as a child with my allowance, and now this is a dude that I get to rep on my movie trivia Schmoedown league. It's surreal, and it's so cool. And then I also got to put Perry on my team, who has been a guiding force in my Collider trajectory. She brought me on to Movie Talk when she took over. I was there every Tuesday. We went to Hawaii together for a con. We talk outside of work. Now that Collider video is not a thing, we still are friends. So I wanted to be with Perry on this journey because I think we can support her. I think we can make her the best possible version of a competitor she can be. And you may notice Haley Fouch is also on my team, and I have a lot of faith in Haley in general, But I imagine the duo of those two, if it works out that way, it might, will be quite the powerhouse. So I'm really excited for all of the above. But it's super surreal to me that we have this opportunity. I'm honored with my team. And I've talked to a few of the players that haven't gotten to play yet. The tricky thing about where we are is a lot of my team hasn't gotten to play, and it's driving me crazy because we're trapped in quarantine, but also scheduling and all of these things. So I'm trying to get all of my players up, people you've wanted to see that haven't been able to, all of those things. I don't think Kevin is going to play Inner Geekdom soon. It would probably have to be an Iron Man match or something singular. It doesn't make sense for him in the tournament. There's too many moving parts. Scheduling's a whole thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but he writes, he directs, he has multiple podcasts, he speaks publicly, he has a weed company, he's a bit busy. So I don't want to have the amount of moving parts on a tournament faction or anything like that with Kevin. So I'm thinking singles, I'm considering teams, I'm also well aware that it's going to be a really cool lining up of stars to make all this happen. So bear with me because I want to make sure it's the best possible match. It's going to take a little longer. It's also very hard for me to be like, make this happen with anyone on my team, with any of my faction. Like I want them to be happy. This is about enjoying your life, and that's what I'm trying to do. I forgot that for the first like half of quarantine that we're supposed to be happy. I was just like, be vigilant, get shit done. I've done so much work in quarantine. I've only taken 5 days off. This is my 62nd day in quarantine. I've taken 5 out of 62 days off, which means less than a week. And I finally took 2 days off in a row, my 59th and 60. I hit 0 days off. No, I hit 1 day off between 0 and 30, and I was like, yo, you're going to go crazy. So I finally took a weekend off by 59 and 60 because I told myself I would, and I feel so much better. It's part of why I'm happy now. I've got my heart rate down 10 BPMs. I literally wear a Fitbit, and I'm going to get personal. When I first got my Fitbit, my heart was scaring the shit out of me because it was in the high 90s, low hundreds at rest when I was sitting down. So yes, I talk fast, yes, all these things, but I'm a fit dude. I work out a lot, and I shouldn't be that high. It's not healthy for a 30-year-old. So I've been working on like getting my heart rate in order and all this shit. So I've been resting in the 60s. But through quarantine, I've been up to the 80s and 90s again because I'm so fucking stressed. So I'm working on getting my shit together. I'm working on my meditating. I'm working on taking care of me, which is so important. So this is my little PSA. Take care of yourself during all this. It's scary as fuck out there, but make sure when you're in here, when you're in your space, you do everything you can to take care of yourself. So, yeah, I mean, I see a workout at home. Yeah, I definitely, like, I run every other day, and I work out probably 4 of the other of those days. I got in 57 workouts in my first 60 days, and I ran almost 60 miles, because I do every other day, and I've been doing, like, 4 miles at a time. Anyway, that's too many details. You don't care. But what does matter is taking care of your health, taking care of yourself, taking care of your mental health, so you don't freak yourself out. So I'm now deciding to fucking live in this quarantine. We can't change the fact that we can't go outside, but what we can do is make the best out of all of this. So I hope you are making the best of all of this shit and finding cool stuff to do. So in that case, watch tons of Schmo stuff and find stuff you love. So I'm really excited, and I'm stoked about the way my team came together, and I hope all that makes sense. Let's see the live chat. I haven't checked in here in a little while. Matthew Richards, 1. Willem Dafoe or Jake Gyllenhaal's Joker and Matt Reeves' Batman trilogy? Willem Dafoe. He looks just like how I've always pictured the Joker. His face is made to be the Joker. I love Jake. I would have loved to have seen a Jake Riddler. I like Paul Dano for it, sure. But also, I think Jake would be a good Batman. But either way, he's Mysterio, and people don't like when people cross over, and they don't like when they're playing 2 characters at the same time. But I think Willem Dafoe is the Joker. People asking singles. We're going to talk about that. How do I think Alfred might be portrayed by Andy Serkis? Do you think it's going to be Batman Earth 1 direction, like an army man tasked with taking care of Bruce, or the classic butler? I think both. Alfred is an MI6 agent that is also a butler. I think he's going to be a vigilant butler. I think he will have, in his youth, served as a mercenary or an agent of the government and then become a butler. So I think he's going to be able to be both attentive and everything else he needs to be, if that makes any sense at all. So both, all of the above. All right, back to more news. UFC 249. Now, I will not stay on this subject all that long because I know a lot of you are in here for comic books and pop culture, and I know UFC is not as big of a piece of all of that goodness as everybody else sees, so I want to basically get through it because this is for me. This is the curls part of Koi's comics, cinema, and curls. UFC 249 was the very first sporting event back while we're in the pandemic. So UFC 249 was a warm blanket of, oh, I miss the UFC so much. I'm not a big baseball guy, hockey guy, soccer guy, volleyball guy, golf guy, none of those things. I'm a big UFC guy, and this was everything. I like football too, but I don't watch it every single week. I watch almost every UFC fight. I used to box a bit, and I also love mixed martial arts. I actually went to Dublin and trained at SBG just for like a day, but I went to SBG, Conor McGregor's camp, and it was an honor to be in the space with Coach Kavanaugh and see that world, because those are the elite of elite athletes, and it was truly an honor. So, UFC is my sport. That's the thing I'm invested in. That's what I care about most. So, it being the first sport back, UFC 249 obviously meant a whole lot to me, so I want to talk about it for just a little bit. The headlining fight of Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson is everything you want out of a UFC fight. It is a lot of not groundwork. People hate ground game in America because we want the excitement of a boxing game. But I really liked that this was a combination of some mixed martial arts mixed with a heavy boxing. Tony Ferguson moves like nobody else. The way he's able to dodge things and be elusive while also being forceful. He's never retreating while he's adjusting, and that's incredible considering he's moving away, but he's also enacting his next move. He thinks 5 steps ahead. He's playing 3D chess. And then, of course, Justin, who was not yet a household name. Tony Ferguson's effectively a household name at this point. Justin wasn't, and his performance has made him one in one incredible fight. He, I would argue, had all 5 of those rounds. Maybe not the second round with the double uppercuts, because at the end of a round, it's really hard to sway a judge. The thing they just saw, that double uppercut was a straight-up Mortal Kombat move. I have never seen anything quite like that. It was beautiful, and that was an incredible landing by Tony Ferguson. Getting an uppercut to hit like a video game is damn near impossible. It was incredible. So I really liked the whole fight, but there were some highlights like that. The amount of just concussion level blows that Justin landed on Tony Ferguson that he fought through. I would argue after that performance, Tony Ferguson has one of the top 5 chins in the history of the UFC. His chin can withstand the world. What he was able to do for 5 rounds, for over 20 minutes, withstanding those blows that have taken out everyone that Justin's fought before him, absolutely incredible. They both did a really good job evolving with the other person's skill and tactics. I like how much it just kept moving. It was one of those fights that you were never bored. It was a powerhouse performance by both of these athletes, and I think you have to respect both of them. Tony Ferguson for withstanding all that and for keeping up and for evolving his tactics, and Justin for fighting someone that a lot of people just assumed he was going to lose to. It was incredible. Tony Ferguson hadn't lost a fight since Obama's first term. Tony Ferguson hadn't lost a fight since 2012. And he lost to this guy who a lot of people didn't know. I've been a casual fan of him. He's definitely in conversations as with the elite. Now he's one of the elites, and it was a great fight. Huge fan of the fight. Had a great time. Also, Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Henry won and then retired. I thought it was a great fight. It was the fight I expected, if that makes any sense. It was a lot of people had Cruz winning, but I really thought it would go the way it did, and it only made it 2 rounds. I really would have thought third, but other than that, it was about the fight that I expected. It ended right at the end of the second round, and I didn't expect the retirement, but to retire at 33 with a win, go out big, go out. You defended your belt and you got that, and good for you. I feel like a lot of fighters fight 2 to 3 more times than they should. So to go out on top like that, I'm so happy for that guy. Then we also have one of my other favorite fights of the night. The Francis Ngannou fight was brutal. It was 20 seconds of madness. Both of these dudes, heavyweights, titans, beasts, came at each other, and within 20 seconds it was over. And they both were playing offense, but once Ngannou got him on the ground, I don't know how to say the other guy's name straight up. I apologize. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, maybe. Apologies for butchering that name. But they both commendable. Just, Ngannou got him first. He was the one I was expecting to win. I talked about predictions last week. that was a lot faster than I expected to go, but it ended how I expected it to. And then the last fight I want to talk about is Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone. I don't agree with the unanimous decision. I think Cerrone did better than people give him credit for in that fight. I don't necessarily disagree with Pettis winning. Pettis is fantastic, but I don't feel like it was that clean. Like, I feel like Cerrone I'm torn on the Cerrone fight. I'm torn on where Cowboy went with that, because he got an incredible kick in. He also had some incredible defensive moves. I feel like Cowboy had a lot more to offer than the scoreboard looked like he did. And also, I just feel bad after that Conor fight. Like, I feel like Cowboy is one of those guys that, like, does so very much. So, UFC 249 did not disappoint as the first sport back in the game. GSP being inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame makes me so happy. I am a huge GSP fan. I've been watching UFC since, I think, like, UFC 7, back in, like, the Matt Hughes, people wearing different outfits, and, like, it was, like, gi versus, and the weight divisions weren't, like, really established, and you could do a lot more. It was way more cage fighty, in the true sense back then. Yeah, like the New York Brawler. I forget what his name was. Shit, he was my favorite back in the day. Kind of looked like Vegeta. Oh, I don't remember his name. Anyway, the Matt Hughes era. So GSP's been around forever. He was in then, and he's always been one of the best guys in the sport. And if you've ever listened to his long-form interviews, like the one he did with Joe Rogan, absolutely incredible. He's insightful. He's inspired. He's brilliant. He cares about the sport in such a mental way. He's such a genius that's also so physically active. It's one of the things I like about working out is people don't expect you to be smart if you're jacked, and people don't expect you to be jacked if you're smart. We have these weird connotations. Like, if you read comics, you can't fuck up somebody. Like, it's this weird thing where I always talk about, like, going to the gym and going to the comic store in the same day, and most people just don't. And there are more of us that do. Like, the Venn diagram's getting bigger, but people just see it as separate things. I like when people are intelligent but also take care of themselves. I always think better when I've just worked out. I always think better when I've moved my body. So someone like GSP, who's an actual genius, who's also one of the best mixed martial artists of all time, incredible. He deserves the hell out of that Hall of Fame. I actually didn't realize he wasn't already inducted, because he's the guy to me, GSP. And also Batroc the Leaper, to tie it back into comics. And now I feel like my UFC rant worked for this show because I tied it back into comics. Batroc the Leaper deserved the hell out of that, by all means. And I see somewhere in the chat, someone had said Ngannou's going to run the heavyweight division. Absolutely. That guy is terrifying and awesome. All right, I'm going to go over my Streamlabs right quick. Oh, what up, Smack Talk? All right. I finally got around to eating my lunch at 5:30 p.m. today because I was completely unequivocally... Oh, today is completely unequivocally sucked. That's awful, dude. I, too, will be spending more time taking care of myself physically and mentally. Thanks, and just keep swimming. I'm workshopping a Koi Pond slogan. Just keep swimming is very on brand. I support it. I respect it. Very true. I on that subject, people think I'm like the happiest dude on the planet, but some of that is just, when you're on, you have to be, right? Like, this is a, not persona, because I'm me, but I want to make sure that you guys see an authentic version of me, but I definitely make sure it's the positive one. Like, I don't want to be a source of negativity or anger or anything on the internet, because the internet has plenty of that. I've always been bothered by Rotten Tomatoes getting as popular as it has, because it's a black and white system for a color scale. If you take a picture of all of the colors on a paint wall at Home Depot, and then you turn that photo black and white, you've gotten rid of all of the nuance. Now you've just got shades of gray. And I feel like that's what we've done with journalism and film critique. Like, you're right or you're wrong. It's good movie, it's bad movie. It's rotten or it's fresh. It's not the way shit works. And I hate that people don't see movies because of Rotten Tomatoes and shit. So, in an effort to balance the scales of pure negativity, I try to be only positive. So, I definitely struggle with stress and mental health and just overall, like, more than I let be part of my public persona. But I think it's also important to make sure you guys know I'm a person, and that I'm going through this shit along with you. So, Smack Talk, thank you for letting me know you've had a shit day. I hope this helps. I hope your day gets better. I hope it turns around. We both need to work on taking care of our mental health better. I think it is a different world, so we need to have different tactics. Me working out and meditating had been enough for me to stay happy, but I also get fueled by people. I need to remember that I'm not having cons to go to meet hundreds of people, and that refuels me. I don't have Collider to go to talk to thousands of people. That refueled me. On the scale of things, I lost Collider January 2nd, I lost the apartment I was living in. 2 weeks later, I then had to find a new place, then bop over to a con. While I was at the con, the COVID madness was starting to be, like, aware of, so I had to get on a plane knowing how scary it was. I was supposed to come back and shoot an episode of Comic Book Shopping. That got delayed a week, which then turned into indefinitely because of all this madness. I then had to move into a garage, and everything's kind of fallen apart, but I've tried not to show that because I don't want my shit to affect your shit negatively. So, I try to be an optimistic person. I try to see the glass half full, but it's been a really hard year to see the glass half full because that glass is fucking shaky like a Jurassic Park fucking T-Rex litmus test. That said, I turned a corner this week, and now I'm able to enact some of my shit, and it's working. So I hope you find a different... I hope you turn the corner too and find your positive stuff. Because, man, losing your job, losing your spot, living in a garage, and then having the world crumble around you is a hell of a way to have a pandemic. So I'm just happy that I'm tolerable. So you guys are the best, and you guys have been supportive this whole journey, and I love you and appreciate you all very, very much. So I just wanted you guys to know that is appreciated in the Smack Talk, in the Streamlabs, and everything else, and know that I'm not always the bundle of joy I appear. So if you have negative shit, everyone does. All right, let's get back to the news. Moving past UFC into creators for comics. I talked about this, I think, briefly last week, but just in case you guys don't know, I had done a creators for comics. Basically, my contribution was comic book shopping. I wanted to take someone to do what I do and curate comics after interviewing them. The way I curate comics is I watch a lot of the person's content. Thank you for all the love in the live chat. I see it. Thank you. You guys are the best. Truly. Thank you. I take people through their filmography, usually in the case of comic book shopping, the show I do, and then I look at all their interviews, and I spend like 40 to 50 hours dissecting the person, and then I pull like way more comics than make it to the show, and then while I'm doing the in-person interview, I'm like putting comics back on the shelves, and I'm grabbing others, and then I try to land with a certain amount of comics depending on the person. That's how I do the show normally. I thought for a creators for comics it'd be cool to have a one-on-one, and it was going to be like an hour, but me and Alex Garcia got along great, so we ended up talking for like an hour and 40. And after Alex and I talked, I pulled comics for him. And it was cool because I got to do another version of comic book shopping just off the interview. So I was going to just text him or email him or any of those things to get him the information. But then we both agreed, like, people should have that information. Because right now we need new to you comic book days. We need people to have new things to read. So I decided to make it public. And then I was like, you know what? It's a Wednesday. I'll make a video. So last Wednesday, if you guys haven't seen it yet, I did a mini episode of basically a new to you comic book day episode of comic book shopping where I pulled a bunch of stuff that you guys might like. So these were all curated directly to Alex. These were all just for Alex in his specificity, but they're all very good comics. So anyone can appreciate them. They're all really good stuff. So they're all available. Many of them are available on Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe. Many of them are mini-series, so it's not too much of a commitment of time or money or any of those things. They're very manageable. So there are 15 polls over on that video. It is on my page. So click back, go through videos. It says Creators for Comics, Alex Garcia. And once again, thank you to Alex Garcia for winning that bid and donating money to Creators for Comics, because that is how comic book shores are going to open back up. And comic book stores are opening back up. It's starting to happen. It's very exciting. It's curbside, but we got new comics coming out, which is going to be something we get to near the end of the show. New comic books are here and more are coming. And thanks to Creators for Comics, they raised a hell of a lot of money to keep that going. And then Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld have both individually raised a hell of a lot of money for comic book shops. And DC donated $250,000. So what a dope community, right? Like, what an incredible pocket of human beings. It is truly insane. Very excited. Very excited. All right, moving on to... this week has been a glorious reunion week for very wholesome, wonderful content. Not only did we get the excellent Some Good News continuing with an Office reunion where someone proposed, like Jim, to his Pam, and in that moment sent it to the Jim that we know, John Krasinski, and then he had them Skype in and got ordained and married them, and then had the Office cast reunite for their wedding. It was precious. It was lovely. I love all of these reunions. We're all trapped at home, so schedules are less chaotic, a little less. So we're seeing a lot of reunions that could never happen otherwise, and that was beautiful. But we also got a Back to the Future reunion from Josh Gad, who got the original 3 leads from Back to the Future together, which is insane. Michael J. Fox, Lloyd. Oh, brain fart. This is why I don't Schmoedown. Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd, maybe? Is that his name? Anyway, the incredible mad scientist of Back to the Future, again, why I don't Schmoedown, why I'm a manager, and Leah Thompson all together for a reunion of Back to the Future, and that made me so happy. It made my soul sing. Yes. So that was wonderful and heartwarming and everything we need in the world right now. And also, on the 18th, coming up, we've got a community table read with almost the entire original cast. Everyone but Chevy Chase is coming back, and they're doing an episode without Chevy Chase in it, so there's less semantics. And Donald Glover even's coming back, and they already did a podcast. They've already filmed this thing. They did a podcast together over on The More I Talk, the Less Names I Remember, which isn't good for a podcast. They did a podcast episode where they all kind of reunite, they talk. There's a lot of adorable Donald Glover moments where he realizes he's not part of the group chat. Very great. Darkest Timeline podcast, Scott Welsh saving the game, and Chris Lloyd. Thank you very much, Weston. It's been a great week for reunions, and the 18th is one of my most anticipated, if not my most anticipated. I'm in the middle of Community right now. I'm on season 3, so I'm knee-deep in the happy, and we're getting into reunions. So on the 18th, there is a table read of a classic Community episode with the whole cast, minus Mr. Chevy Chase, and I couldn't be more excited. As you guys know, I'm a giant Donald Glover fan. I'm a huge Childish Gambino's fan. I'm just so stoked. I see you in there. Yes, Gad the week before had the Goonies cast reunite, which was also so cool. Josh Gad knows. He's our age, so he's like grabbing the heartstrings that we got, which is so cool. I've just loved seeing all this. I love when nostalgia is used for positivity. I love when it doesn't feel like a cash grab because these are free. I love when it's just for the goodness to remind us why we loved these things. I'm looking forward to the Friends reunion. It's going to be, an unscripted conversation, which I'm excited to see because these are all going so well. I think my favorite's going to be hard to top, which is the Parks and Rec episode. They reunited and it was scripted. They made an episode about social distancing that didn't feel like it was pandering. They gave heartfelt information. They raised lots of money. They were all in character. Chris Traeger's my spirit animal. It's going to be hard to top Parks and Rec, but getting The Office, Back to the Future, and soon Community, as well as all these giant movies, glorious times. The world may be crazy, but the entertainment industry is supporting us in very, very wonderful ways. So if you guys haven't checked any of those out, please do. They are lovely. All right, checking the Streamlabs real quick before I pop back over to more news. We are approaching the streaming and comic recommendations section of the show. While this loads, oh, it looks like we got one more. All right, Ash Arnold says, for a new non-shaky glass. That's funny. Appreciate everything you do for us. Also, what's the best film you've seen in quarantine that you hadn't seen before? Wonderful question. I like that question very much. Best film I've seen in quarantine. Can I make it a show? Because a show I didn't expect to love. I watched the pilot and was like, I think I'll like this. I fell in love with High Fidelity, the show on Hulu, which I hadn't heard anything about. I don't usually watch TV. I'm usually a movie guy. High Fidelity wowed me. I've thought about it constantly. I loved it. I binged it. I never binge shows. I was watching 3 episodes a day, which is not me. It's fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. I rewatched The Accountant, which is an A for me. I love that movie, but rewatching shouldn't count. What is my Discovery show? Like, movie? I don't know off the top of my head. I've watched a lot of really good stuff. Get Him to the Greek and The Accountant are amongst my favorites. The Gentleman is the thing I've seen most in 2020, and it's my movie of 2020 so far. So let's go with The Gentleman. The Gentleman is, I think, my favorite movie this year, even if movies had kept coming out. And The Gentleman has been a great quarantine watch. And I have a very, very fucking long review of it over on YouTube. It is 50 minutes. I love that movie so much I talked about it for almost the length of the movie. But I looked at like 40 hours of content. I looked at all the interviews. I watched stuff with all the actors. And I love Guy Ritchie, so the writer-director as well. And then I did a giant review of The Gentleman. So do check that out if you're interested. That's probably my pick for favorite movie I've watched in quarantine. But I had seen it before, so I feel like that's a cheat of an answer. I will have that answer for you next week. That is That is what I got. Remind me next week. I will have that answer for you next week because I just gave you a show and a bunch of rewatches, which frankly doesn't count. All right, moving on to Extraction. Did incredibly well. It is a couple weeks old. This news is a little old, but briefly I wanted to say it hit 90 million houses, which means it was the #1 film on the planet. It's the biggest movie to come out of the Netflix originals, and it's already gotten sequel movement. We assume we're getting the director back because Sam Hargrave is going to be hard to top that style. He's the guy that made that film the way it is, and Joe Russo is back to write it. So just a little update on the Extraction sequel. We are getting a Joe Russo sequel, probably directed by Sam Hargrave, which is very exciting. Sequel, prequel, something. We're getting a continuation of the Extraction story, which is very exciting, and I cannot wait because I really liked Extraction. Again, another review on my YouTube page. The reason I keep plugging is I'm trying to see if you guys want more reviews or more streams, and I'm trying to balance both. My streams tend to do better, but I don't know if that's just because there's more people watching live, or my reviews, like, just trying to play with what content you guys want. Ash accepts the Guy Ritchie joint, The Gentleman, as an acceptable answer. I appreciate you, Ash. Now I feel I've done my due diligence. We also found out last week that the Russos are producing a live-action Hercules. The internet lost its collective minds. I like Hercules as much as the next guy, but I'm a little live-actioned out, but this one does intrigue me. I'm really curious. The casting has been adorable. We'll see how it goes. This slipped under the radar for a lot of people. I talk about the Marvel shows all the time, and I didn't hear this until well later. The art director for the Marvel Netflix stuff, like Luke Cage and Punisher, passed away from COVID complications at 52. So I just wanted to give some love to the art director, Matteo di Cosmo. Matteo di Cosmo, we lost to COVID at 52. So stay the fuck home, please. Art director and Luke Cage, Punisher, bunch of other incredible work. But it ties into the comic side of the show, so I just wanted to give him a moment of appreciation and remembrance, and appreciate every day, y'all. We never know, and stay safe and stay sane. Take care of yourself. Okay, on to happier tidings. Have a Good Trip is available today. Have a Good Trip is on Netflix today. Today's the 12th. Yeah, it came out yesterday. Have a Good Trip is everything I think celebrities should be used for. I did a live stream last week, and my phone overheated, and then my computer overheated, so I had no chance of getting back in the game. I now will announce the thing I was about to talk about was Have a Good Trip. I think the purpose, benefit, use of celebrity is to bring attention to things. The reason I like comic book shopping is because it gets me, if I put Saga in someone's hands and you are a fan of that person, you will more likely go get Saga. So I'm able to bring awareness to stuff that otherwise wouldn't be a thing, and it doesn't cost anyone anything. It's a celebrity's time, it is their promotion, it is them working on a movie, but I think that's the cool thing about being admired is your taste reflecting other things, and I think that's why it's bullshit when people are saying, like, celebrities stay out of politics. If something matters to you, you should talk about it. I'm getting a little more political in my age and rage, so I'm sorry if that offends you, but if it's something I give a shit about, I'm going to talk about it. So I think that with celebrity, the concept of bringing awareness to causes is such an important use of your power. So Have a Good Trip is something that means a lot to me because it is celebrities bringing attention and awareness to the benefits of hallucinogens. Reaganism is bullshit, in my opinion. I think that Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan caused way more harm to this country than good. I don't know what that means to you. I don't know if that offends you. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. I think the prison system is fucked because of our war on drugs, our 3-strike bullshit, and I think that hallucinogens have a lot of benefits. If you are a parent and you watch my show with your kid, I apologize if you think drugs are a carte blanche bad. I think there are benefits to hallucinogens. We have proven that mushrooms can help PTSD. We've proven that they can help depression. We've proven that there are synapses in the brain that can be healed through hallucinogens if they're in controlled environments, and probably recreationally as we go along. There are multiple cities that have not legalized fully, but they're close. And some have legalized fully, but there's still a fine line. It's messy. We're getting closer to legalizing certain things in certain states. I think the way we see drugs now is a very backdated, outdated, hackneyed system, and I think that using the clout of celebrity to bring attention to that very, very real problem is the benefit of the fucked up paparazzi-fueled celebrity culture that America has. If we're going to see people as gods, then those people have a certain responsibility to work on the world if they choose. They don't have to, but they have a responsibility to be careful what they say. And I think using this platform like they're doing is perfect. Nick Offerman and a slew of other comedians bringing awareness to something like that makes me very, very happy. I won't talk about my shit because I don't want to get arrested, but I will say that as someone who, we'll just say, enjoys Burning Man, I think that they've helped me, you guys, see how happy I am, but I'm also someone who is trying to see the world in a way that isn't constructed for me. I worry about us having laws for the sake of having laws. I worry about us believing in things because we're told we should, and I'm worried about us following outdated pieces of paper. So I think something like Have a Good Trip is a very, very, very important piece of entertainment. So I'm really excited to watch it. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm about to. I'm watching it probably tonight. I'm really excited. And for the record, everybody always thinks I'm stoned because my eyes get red because I don't sleep. I don't smoke weed. Weed freaks me out. It spins me out. So that is not one of my vices, for the record, for whomever gives a shit. I saw green pop up there. But I do think hallucinogens have their place in society. I think it's a very outdated worldview to think they don't. I think that mushrooms are safer than drinking. You'd have to consume pounds and pounds of mushrooms before you'd OD on them, and you'd throw up before that happened, whereas drinking kills thousands of people all the time. So I think, like anything, we need to keep an eye on what we're putting in our bodies, but I think there is a place for the reparative properties of certain chemicals that we have deemed unacceptable for outdated reasons, for what it's worth. So check out Have a Good Trip. It's over on Netflix, and I am a big proponent of everything it represents, both from the celebrity standpoint, the documentarian standpoint, what the documentary's about, what hallucinogens mean to me. It is my exact shit. Do check it out. All right, moving on to more streaming news. Jerry Seinfeld was promoting his new stand-up special, also on Netflix. That tangent was thin, but works. And basically said there might not be any more comedians in cars. If you guys know me, you know that before SGN, Comedians in Cars was probably tied for first my favorite show. I'm a big Hot Ones fan. I'm a big Comedians in Cars fan because I love real conversations with people. I like long-form conversations. I like getting to know the real person, not the persona, which is why I kind of talked about my person, not my persona, earlier today. I think it's important. So Comedians in Cars gets that. You get to find out who these people actually are. Jerry Seinfeld said he might be done with it. It's a lot more work than people think, and I can't even imagine the work that goes into that show. But it did such a great thing for talk shows. It got rid of a lot of the stiffness in talk shows. It got rid of a lot of the gimmicks. You guys know I hate clickbait. You guys know I hate semantics. You guys know I hate all that bullshit. Comedians in Cars is exactly breaking that. It is real conversations, and it shows off beautiful... I love coffee. Oh my god, do I love coffee. If I had a fleet of mechanics, I would also love cars more. I love cars abstractly, but I don't like working on cars because I'm a very impatient person. So if I was Jerry Seinfeld, I'd have a fuck ton of cars. Probably wouldn't work on them. But comedians, cars, coffee, all my favorite shit. I've never seen Seinfeld, but I loved Comedians in Cars. So it's not about Jerry, it's about the content. So I learned to like Jerry Seinfeld through Comedians in Cars, but if it's over, I'll be very, very bummed because it was quite the show. But that is where we stand. That is apparently the rumor. That is the most recent quote we have, but I truly, truly hope it comes back because I'm a giant fan. But only time will tell. And we currently are in quarantine, so it's not like we could shoot that show anyway. I heard that news. I was very bummed. Let me check the Streamlabs. I thought I saw something pop up over here. Let me make sure I don't miss anything. And then I'm going to get to my comic book and streaming recs because new comic books are out, and I am elated. This is another very long episode of the show, but I have a lot of fun talking to you guys, so I want to make sure we get to everything we can. My internet is not happy with me. Surprise, surprise. Well, let me get into the streaming. If you sent to Streamlabs, don't worry. I'm getting into it right now. I just got to let this beast load. Streaming recs for the week. Over on Netflix, District 9 drops on May 15th. If you've somehow never seen District 9, it is incredible. Such a good movie. So important. more than ever. It always evolves in its importance. Public Enemies on May 16th is, I think, a slept-on Michael Mann film. It is a gangster film. Johnny Depp, a wonderful part of Channing Tatum. Like, Channing Tatum's got a small part in it, but he's fantastic. I love Michael Mann. It's a great Michael Mann film, gangster film. Patton Oswalt's new comedy special drops on May 19th. I love stand-up specials. I love Patton Oswalt. On May 20th, we get Flash Season 6. What up? More Flash? Over on Amazon on May 15th, we've got Seberg, Kristen Stewart's new film. I think Kristen Stewart is supremely underappreciated, and I'm really excited to check out her new film, Seberg. May 19th, Like Crazy. Like Crazy is one of my go-to sad movies. When I want to just have a sad, I watch Like Crazy. It is even more sad now because we lost the great Anton Yelchin, and it's an incredible performance by Anton Yelchin. It is just so good. Felicity Huffman's also in it. Jennifer Lawrence is also in it. It's a very contained, very lean, beautiful, wonderful poem of a film. Check out Like Crazy. It's really good. That is on May 19th. And then over on Hulu, we also get Like Crazy. So if you don't have Amazon, it will also be available on Hulu. So May 19th, Like Crazy on Hulu and Amazon. And over in the world of comic books, I am going to switch up our book club. Joseph Ashley, Swamp Thing, is going to the CW. I didn't know... There was a lot of news this week. I didn't get to that because that was the whole headline. Swamp Thing, the show from DC Universe, is going to CW. I'm very excited, but I don't have any more to say about it except for I'm excited. So thank you for bringing that up, Joseph Ashley. I had forgotten. Yes, hype. Swamp Thing getting another chance. Probably not another season, but at least more eyeballs on it, which it deserves. Reading list. This week, I'm not doing the book club because I'm going to switch up the book. We got through book 12 of Saga, and that's the end of volume 2. That's where the Comixology ends, I believe. And it's an adult book, and it's also not as family-friendly, being that it's an adult book. So I thought I'd mix it up. And starting next week, we're going to do the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man, I would argue, is the most accessible comic ever. It is some of the best Spidey you've ever read. It is a great summation of some of his classic stories. Overall, Ultimate Spider-Man is just fantastic. So I'd love to show people that if they somehow haven't read it. So starting next week, we're going to do Ultimate Spider-Man, probably 1 through 3, maybe 1 through 6. So your homework, if you're a part of the book club, is to read the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man. We'll be talking about that next week. I am also currently reading Ex Machina for the first time. There is somehow a West Wing meets Unbreakable book that I'd never heard of, written by Brian K. Vaughan. Yes, Saga's Brian K. Vaughan wrote a politically charged book in 2002 or so. That's my exact shit. While I'm watching West Wing, now I get a West Wing comic. Thank you, Brian K. Vaughan, for retroactively blowing my mind in a new way. So I'm also reading Ex Machina. I just finished the first volume, deeply in love, very, very political, very interesting, just different. I'm a big fan. It's great so far. I just finished volume 1. So those are the 2 things I'm currently going to be reading next week. But in the world of comic books, we finally have new books coming out. Might I recommend in the world of comic books this week, we've got Loading, which is also a book. Let's see. Last week's New Comic Book Day had Green Lantern Season 2, number 3 come out, which I really enjoyed. And I also really love Joker, Harley, Criminal Sanity, which had its 4th issue come out. So those are comic books you can pick up right now. I would give Green Lantern a B, B-, and Joker, Harley Quinn an A-, B+. Both are fantastic books. Both got me back into the spirit of comic books. Green Lantern Season 2 is a very much a space cop book. It's right now it's on Earth, but it's usually a lot more cosmic. And then Harley, Criminal Sanity is a CSI true crime take on Harley and Joker's relationship, and it is glorious. Written by Kami Garcia. The art is staggering. It is photoreal. It is beautiful, and it is back with issue 4. New Comic Book Day tomorrow. We are back with new comics tomorrow, the 13th. We've got Ant-Man number 4, Ghost Spider number 9, Lois Lane number 10, and Ravencroft number 4 are my pulls. There's a few other books, but those are my big 4. The fact that I have 4 comics to say for next week feels so good. Guys, new comic books are back. I'm so elated. Ant-Man is a very solid series. I've been really digging it. My Extreme Labs has finally loaded. Dizzle D says, Donald Glover, Dave Chappelle, and Deadpool. Go you. I try to have taste. I appreciate your agreeing with my taste. It feels extra narcissistic to agree with you to toot my own horn, but I'm going to do it because I'm a big fan of those 3 things very much. And Donald Glover's Deadpool disappearing from the world is one of the great tragedies of modern pop culture. It breaks my heart to this day. I think about it probably once a week, and it's just a shame. It hurts me. I think that is everything. We got comic recs, both for what you can pick up now and what's available tomorrow. We got streaming recs for the next week. I'm going to do every week new streaming recs. We went through the news. We talked UFC. We have covered comics, cinema, and curls. I'm going to refresh this sweet Streamlabs one last time, make sure I didn't miss anything, and then I'm going to check the live chat and make sure there is good as well. Okay, we're good here, and then let's see what we got in the chat. Let's see. It would have been awesome to have Glover's Deadpool, absolutely. I read some of the script. I've seen some of the Deadpool goodness from Don Glover. The one that was fully leaked is amongst my favorite Deadpool ever, which is such a shame. Let's see. AJ Lancaster, catching up in the stream at 2 times speed and hearing Coy talk about hallucinogens at 2 times speed should be its own show. Dude, when it's legal in LA, I won't do hallucinogens on the show, but I will absolutely talk about them more freely. It is so important to me. It is a fundamental of me. So I would love that as well. Maybe that'll be its own show once it's more legal. I have been dabbling in the idea of politics, so I don't want to say anything that's technically illegal because that would kind of shortchange a lot of that. So, yeah, I am very excited for everything going forward. I hope you guys are doing very well and staying sane. Is there a way for us to do a book club of Silver Surfer Black? Down the line, absolutely. I can only do 1 book at a time, 1 for confusion, but 2 for just my time. And 3 because I don't want to like bounce around and people confused. So I want to get through Saga and I want to get through Ultimate Spider-Man. But down the line, dude, Silver Surfer Black, it's short, it's concise, it's beautiful, it's powerful. I'd probably do like 2 issues a week and really get into the art, get into the Donny Cates writing, get into the Tradmore goodness. But I do intend to add that down the line. So absolutely. Also, your name is Comic Quirks with Jimmy, so I had to give that some love because that is very specifically my shit. Being the manager of the Quirky Mercs. All right, I think that is everything, guys. Thank you all so much for joining me today. You guys are a bright spot in my week every single week. We'll be back this Thursday with another episode of Coy-Lection. Coy-Lection episode 4. We're going to be diving back into my long box. We're going to finish up my Amazing Spider-Man run, bringing up 2 modern Amazing Spider-Man. We're going to get right up until where the world pressed pause on new comics. So we're going to go all the way to present day, and Darth Vader has sent a stunning, staggering, beautiful Amazing Spider-Man 135, which I'll be adding to my collection. It'll be part of that very long box. So now Max Shorts has sent me a 26, and Darth Vader has sent me a 135. 135 is the most recent comic I needed in the world of Spider-Man, and I now have it. Thank you to Darth Vader. I'll talk about that more in his show. Also, check out his channel. He is this awesome dude who goes through the things he loved from his childhood in the most heartfelt way, and he does it while being Darth Vader. And he is Darth Vader. So check out his channel. It's fantastic. And we'll be talking about that more on Thursday. So Thursday at 4, we're going to be doing Coy-Lection episode 4. And we'll be diving into the rest of my Amazing Spider-Man collection. And then next week, we're going to go to Blu-rays. We're going to talk movies on Coy-Lection episode 5 and onward. So this has been so much fun. I appreciate you guys. I will see you all next week. And until then, stay sane, stay safe. Thank you for being here. And thank you, as ever, for comic books existence. Y'all are great. I'll see you soon.